you salty sailors, time to raise anchor and set sail for your best scrawny life. Arr.
Well, I went out and bought the Oru Kayak lake model, folding kayak. Super light and portable, weighs only 18 pounds. A lot easier for me to handle than car topping my 35-pound hardshell kayak. It has a few disadvantages. This fold in the front is going to make it so that you cannot do whitewater or real choppy waves or anything with an impact in the front there. It is late April and bass are spawning. Now in this particular case, the water is so clear they've seen me long before I spotted them. Even though they won't stray too far from the nest, they aren't going to bite. They'll generally just spook if you cast a fly line towards them. If I had bait below a bobber and just kind of hung it there in their face, they might bite that, but I think my time will be better spent fly fishing for crappie instead. Alright, well, it does float. The water looks good. We haven't had a big rain out here, and we've got fully emergent curly leaf pondweed already. Now this is a lake that it can really benefit from a slot limit instead of just a hard limit. It's a lake that has a lot of small bass, but there were some large bass nesting there, and this is going to be a time where we probably see a lot of bass nesting. Although we're primarily after crappies. Crappies tend to run small in here as well, same reason why the bass do. It's just not that big of a lake, and it doesn't have a gizzard shad forage base or one of the other, really high population forage bases that could sustain a population of large bass. So the crappie also tend to kind of run small, but they tend to be hungry. All right, we've switched from a size 10 fly to a size 8, just to make it a little harder for the bluegill to eat the fly and kind of target crappie primarily. But there we do have a pretty good sized bluegill. We got a little bigger one. Get back here. Yeah. Yeah, that's an 11, I'd say. I did have another fish break me off. Probably a big crappie. So I switched out. I took off that 3-pound tippet and switched to a 6-pound. One thing about this boat that other people have mentioned in online reviews, it's got a shallow draft. It has a relatively flat bottom. It's not a dihedral hull like my hard shell kayak. So it doesn't track very straight. One stroke of the paddle and a lot of the energy goes to just moving the front end. You'll see the front end swing, a lot with just one stroke of the paddle, which is inefficient. But what you get in exchange for that is a really shallow draft, and this looks to have about a 3.5-inch draft. Looks like a red ear, or it's a hybrid maybe. He's got a little of those red ear markings, but not a fully fledged one. Ooh, another big crappie I see down there. 2 of them. Yeah, a couple nice, real nice crappies.
A lake or midge laying eggs. A huge bass that we spooked. Wow, that thing was mucho grande. No chance of catching it now, it's seen us. But interesting to know that there's one that size in here. That thing was huge. There's a red ear. Yeah. That's a hybrid. It's got some of those red ear markings, but you can see it's not a pure red ear. I'm back here in the very back of the cove. It's real shallow, but there was a crappie sitting on that log. Did not expect that. Another hybrid. Another decent one. Another decent hybrid. Decent little crappie. He's right at 10. Pretty far back in the cove too. Pretty far back in the cove. Real beefy fish. Yeah, a nice little crappie. A sunken log right down there. There's another crappie sitting on that log. No end to the 9-inch bluegills out here. There's a crappie there.
Change the name of this lake from 9 Eagles to
Well, with that inefficient tracking and the width of it, it's not going to win any races, but it did what I needed it to do, and overall I'm really pleased with it. Here's some wild leeks. These have that red on the stem. They smell like onions, and they never have leaves and flowers at the same time.
Got some phlox. Springtime classics. Our old friend Poison Ivy, just popping out and ready to make your life miserable. That is Morchella Americana. They like this limestone that's been placed here to control erosion. Kind of, I mean, they're growing. They're coming from these sycamore trees. They like what the limestone does to the pH a little bit too. And we've got the sycamore trees here that associate with morels. But yeah, there's and it's not dead. It's not a dead sycamore, but I think just because of the way the rock is, they're kind of under stress maybe, and that's sending a signal to the morels to send up fruiting bodies. That one's fresh enough to pick. Got a couple of them. Hear that? Kind of old and dried up. That one's fresh enough to pick, but I think I'll just leave them and they'll go over there. Get some of those leaves off of it so it can spread some spores. There's a couple of them. Now those are good and fresh. Maybe I'll pick these ones. Getting into the heavy poison ivy now. Yeah, I'm surprised there's not a morel like right in the middle of all that. That's how it usually is. Just daring you to reach in there.
Back at it with the phlox. And we've got a little Osmorrhiza longistylus, the anise root coming up below it. The next day I did go out to a different lake where the water wasn't quite as clear, and therefore the nesting bass were not as skittish, and I did manage to get this pretty good sized bruiser, so pretty happy with that.